Right, so the first exercise will be internal rotation and 0 degrees of abduction with a rolled up towel in between your elbow and your side. And we're going to grab. So now when it's quite irritable, you might find that you just want to do it in this range. But as you get better, you can actually go out further and you're coming in. So this is the first stage of internal rotation at 0 degrees of abduction. So once we've done internal rotation, the next one is to do lateral rotation or external rotation. So again, you have your rolled up towel between your elbow and your side, and you are coming out. Just like that. So nice and controlled. I don't want any of this. So now if we find that's too hard, then you're just going to go within the range that you can do, or change color band. I'm just using red for an example. The next exercise is for scapular retraction or rowing exercise. So normally I do both at the same time, but I'm just going to use just the one so you can see. So we're starting off. If it's quite irritable, you might want to go from sort of flexion into neutral, so you're not going into too much extension. So up and then back. When that gets easier, obviously you can go further. And again, that's at 0 degrees of abduction. Another exercise in this position is a bent over row. So you're going to have your knees slightly bent, sticking your bum out, and you're in a rowing position. And then I'm going to show you with just one, up and down. Obviously this weight is very easy. So once you are comfortable doing level 1 exercises, we can then progress them, and these are the ones I use for level 2. So we're starting off again with internal rotation, but this time, instead of being in 0 degrees of abduction, we're going to go to 45, because then we're going to move on eventually to 90. So we've got 0, obviously 90 is about there roughly, so 45. And then we are internally rotating. Following on from internal rotation at 45 degrees, we then go into lateral rotation. And I like this because you're also doing some eccentric control. Again, progressing the rowing. So we were going 0 degrees of abduction. So we can now go 45 and bring in. So progression of lateral rotation. I'm in a lunge position. I have my arm with some support, and I'm just going up to 90 degrees and coming back and up and back. Now I don't have any evidence for this part, but I also like to push through the heel of my opposite leg as I'm coming up. Although this won't be as effective as when you're doing single leg step-ups with the contralateral leg, because my ipsilateral leg is in touch with the floor, so we'll be getting feedback. So when that gets easier, we can then start to progress. So if the external rotation is pain-free, we can then make it harder by using band. So again, I have the band just underneath my contralateral foot, pushing down into the heel, and I then externally rotate. We can also do internal rotation in the same way. So I've got the band behind me just for you to see, and then I'm pushing forward against internal rotation. Although that's only internally rotating to neutral. So end range external rotation, neutral. So unsupported, I'm pushing down through the contralateral heel. And while we're here, we can also do the internal rotation. Another good one is the fall-in push-up. So arms up, and so again, arms up, and once more. As that gets easier, you can either do it lower down, or we can go for different lower structures like the physio plinth. So on the physio plinth, you can take your arms up, and again. Another one is the door fall. So stepping a bit close to the door, take your arms up, and you just basically fall, and you're controlling the shoulder. So the first one is the drop and catch. So I take myself up into 90, got a 0.5 weight, and facing the floor, and then you just drop the weight and catch it. So again. So you have arm like that, wrist in your head. We can also do something like this by putting our TheraBand, and we can do sort of power exercise or things like that. So it's basically that move, and I would generally get into that position. And also coming back the other way. Right, so this video hopefully was useful, and it goes through a progression of exercises I use for my patients with posterior shoulder pain, starting at really lower level and then progressing, but also remembering that we need to start to bring in other things such as the ballistic movements or rate of force development or power exercises, plyometrics, whatever you want to call them. Obviously as well, we do need to use things like the kinetic chain, although some of the research shows that activation of the kinetic chain during the exercises can actually make things a little easier for the cuff. But if we're trying to get a lot of more strength in those positions, then doing it without the kinetic chain first is good. Also seems to be that when we are doing kinetic chain, it's the step up movements that are better than sort of squatting movements. So again, you can incorporate the step up in lots of the exercises I showed you today. Hopefully that was useful, and until next time.